TrustPower's perspective, I think it's wonderful that our 12th National Community Awards we've been able to hold here at the birthplace of the nations.
Now the judging. And someone asked me today, is it different upstairs where you judges are? And in fact, we're all judges. This is an event, it should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's got the most judges of any event in the world, the TrustPower Community Awards. But difficult to decide because there's the groups that have shown huge commitment over decades, like the Otago Excursion Train Trust and Dannyverk Lions, over the kind of shorter term projects so far, like the Ghost Trail, the Ghost Road, and Te Mera, and like Te Mera, very emotional projects today. So it is not getting easier for the judges, nor, I suspect, is it getting easier for you. Funding is harder to come by. You wouldn't know that from the tales you told today, but so much hard work goes into finding funding and also finding volunteers. You don't seem to have a shortage of those, but I know that can get tougher as well. But you're all just incredibly capable people. Your own time, I know, is precious. You're all busy people. That's the thing, you know, there are lots of other things you could be doing, but it's amazing how time magically expands when good and capable people decide to start marvellous volunteer projects like yours. What you do is extraordinary. And I often hear people in the room also say, oh, gee, so-and-so's project is fantastic. And I think, but yours is fantastic. So you're all modest people. You're lovely people. What you do deep down, I think, is essentially kindness. Oscar Wilde said the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention. And you're kind to your communities, to future generations. It's as Tommy said today, actually. It's for our children and grandchildren. It's for the tamariki and the mokopuna. And it is such a legacy you leave.
To all our distinguished guests here tonight, welcome and thank you very much. I just want to say first and foremost to TrustPower, what a thrill it is to be here, what a thrill it is to work with TrustPower, Graham and the team, and just to, I don't have the words really to express what TrustPower means to Malcolm Trust. To all those organisations that presented here today, I'm just in awe. I think your programs are absolutely magnificent, and I'd like to congratulate each and every one of you. And I have a favourite word I use when I'm feeling really good, and I don't feel really good at the moment, but I feel really good about what I heard today. And it just very simply is I'm feeling gruntled. And I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to feel gruntled tonight. I just want to talk a little bit about what Malcolm Trust and I personally owe young people. As you know, in New Zealand we have a habit of talking about our young people as being lazy. I want to tell you that that's far, far from the truth. That's not what we see at Malcolm Trust. What we see at Malcolm Trust are young people, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, walking into our offices and saying, what is it that you do? How do I become a part of it? And we move from there. Now, those young people are all clients, and they all come in bearing a cheque, because we get paid sometimes for putting young people on training programs, and in our case, youth development programs. I value that highly. That's how I pay the staff at Malcolm Trust and all the other trusts I'm involved in. Those young people we're talking about are described as NEETs, which stands for not in education, employment or training. That's actually a very wrong definition. It actually stands for naturally enjoyable, employable teens. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart. Those young people, when they come into Malcolm Trust, could easily go on a program which is funded by Ministry of Youth Affairs. The first two of them started in 1995 and the third in 1999, and we still operate them. They and many other programs we operate, one of the things you do when you come on a program at Malcolm Trust is you agree to a set of rules. And the rules are pretty simple. The fact is there are boundaries, there are consequences if you break those boundaries, and we have zero tolerance for alcohol, drugs or bullying, and they honour that. But what they also agree to do, particularly in years gone by, is they agreed to spend a third of their time on community work. Now these are these young people who are unemployable. I need to remind you of that because that's how they're perceived. Those young people at Malcolm Trust have completed in areas between Stewart Island and Hanmer Springs, from coast to coast, and as far away as Nepal, in excess of 400,000 hours of community work. And that's my idea and their idea of them giving back for what they get in the way of the benefit from the community and the assistance they get. So anyone that's brave enough to come to me and say these kids don't want to work, forget it. These are really, really, really important people, and they're the now for this country. Every one of them is employable. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of a fabulous weekend for me, and best wishes to you for the rest of the evening. Thank you.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I've got some notes so I stay on track, but I do want to say that you might be wondering, so what's the government got to do with all this? The government needs to acknowledge you. That's why I'm here. I'd like to acknowledge your host, Mayor Wayne Brown, and his wife Tony, and I'd like to acknowledge Bruce Harker as the TrustPower Chairman and all of the TrustPower team, particularly Graham Purchase, who is the life and soul of this. I'd like to acknowledge all of the judges and the comments that Jim's made about the difficult job. I read the booklet from cover to cover, and as I read it today on the way up here, and as I read it I thought, who'd want to be a judge? Certainly not me. So mayors and representatives of the local authorities, but actually I have to say the most distinguished guests in this room are the people who head up the projects, and I want to acknowledge you. But then I just want to make mention of Malcolm. You know, Malcolm, you know those NEETs, and I've written down what you call NEETs. Actually, when they get involved in your programs, then they've got a future, but that's an awful lot to do with the way you greet them and you give them a chance, and the people around you working with you, and I want to acknowledge you for that. So often when I speak with groups where there's lots of volunteers, I trot out the numbers, you know those numbers already, I think. 1.2 million volunteers in New Zealand, contributing 270 million hours a year. And everyone says, how could New Zealand ever function without them? And metaphorically, everyone are right. But as they say in the ads, but wait, there's more. What is less often spoken of, in my view, but equally important, is the social capital that is created by that effort. For it is that social capital that determines the fabric of a community. Some really notable challenges have beset our communities in New Zealand over the last couple of years, and I'm just going to mention some of them. So we've got earthquakes, the Rena, we've had weather events, and the current drought is one of those. But then there's the challenges that come in smaller packages but are no less significant to the communities they occur in. And those challenges might be a string of young people committing suicide, or a car crash that kills a whole family. Tragedies like these test the fabric of our communities, and that's where the community leaders and community projects will have already played their part, because their work, your work, has engendered social capital already. It's engendered a sense of belonging and a strong and generous community, and boy did I read about some generous communities in that book. So today the judges heard about you all, the stunning groups, the examples all of combined efforts with great results. And each represents a community, something they can be really, really proud of. Each has built social capital in their community. And publishing and celebrating those stories, we build that social capital still further, because there's an essence that I won't go into the details of, but you've got reciprocity as well. And it's about a community that sees good things happening and other people getting on board and saying, what can I do that's going to be, really good in our community as well? So there's some of that happens as well. So the next time any one of you dares to think, I'm not in this for the recognition, please, 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 celebrate and be in it for the recognition, because it's bigger than just you, and our communities need to know about the good works that you're doing. Celebrating those 1.2 million volunteers, alongside, I have to mention, alongside of them are paid people supporting volunteers as well. Volunteer managers are really important, and some of your projects did have some people paid as well. That builds that social capital that stands us in really good stead when tragedies strike. TrustPower, you do an amazing job. Thank you so much for putting the spotlight on this year after year after year. Our communities just love these occasions when the awards are given out, and then they should be celebrating the amazing people in this room. So I think it bodes for me to just finish, and I thought I would quote the Universal Declaration on Volunteering. Volunteering is a fundamental building block of society. It brings to life the noblest aspirations of humankind, the pursuit of peace, freedom, opportunity, safety, and justice for all people. You're all amazing, and I'm going to ask you to take this opportunity now to give yourselves a round of applause. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. That's for you.
It's my pleasure to be here. Kia ora, good evening. What a fantastic day we've had. Our thanks to Mayor Wayne Brown and to all those from the far north who have helped us and looked after us. We've had a fantastic day. A special welcome to Rangitata MP and Minister Joe Goodhue. We're really pleased you could join us tonight. Well, every group that's got here tonight, they're already winners. They've won at the regional level, and rightly so, and the presentations showed that. It was actually amazing to see the breadth of what's actually going on in New Zealand, people actually doing something because they believe it's worthwhile, because they want to be in a connected and supported community, and because we want our children to know and value our past and to grow up knowing community. To be strong because of the strength of many. These are values that determine how we go forward. To me, it's not just what's being achieved by you people, but it's the how as well. It's getting organised, it's leveraging off other groups and businesses, it's planning and getting the details right for safety and all the building rules, and it's the visioning that yes, we can do it. In short, that's leadership. And we have got a lot of leaders in the room with us tonight, and I congratulate you all. It's inspiring what can be achieved. Sometimes 1 metre at a time on a bike track. Sometimes it's world-class drama in towns normally thought too small to have that. Sometimes it's matchmaking, volunteers through to the socially isolated. And sometimes it's matchmaking 52,000 kilos of food to go where it would otherwise go to waste. It's rebuilding trains, rebuilding airplanes. It's leveraging off those things to build membership and to have events to get funds for other things in the community. It's wambling around, building pride in your town, seeing the needs in your family and responding to those, whether it's Dannevirke or Wairoa. And it's also helping those people coping with quite a lot of illnesses, where you really do make a difference. Our communities are better off when they're connected to one another. It doesn't matter if it's the local pool or zooming around a local pump track or having a cup of tea in the community garden. There are a lot better places also when our youth have somewhere to go other than wander the streets, where they can belong to a different group and where they can get challenged. We're also a lot better off when we get closer to our past and understand it, like at Piriaraka, and when we can still hear our native birds and share pride in our rivers and mountains. It's impressive to see old events revitalised and re-energised. Things like the Kamara racing and the Sevens events, the Tour de Manawatu, and what a difference being covered can make. After having biked the Karapoti and the Hefe and the Motatapu, I can't wait to explore that new one, the Ghost Road. Ideas are everywhere. They're all great, but what gets things done is well-planned hard work. It's the same at TrustPower, but it's having fun on the way through with mates that actually sustains that effort. There are a few takeaways for TrustPower from these sort of events. Local empowerment works. Planning well works. Engaging and respecting people works. Engaging and respecting customers works. I've also learned that you can learn to use email when you're 97, and that a bit of white paint can fix almost anything. Now, I would like to thank the judges. John Green from last year's winners at the Denniston Heritage Trust, Jim Moore. Jim, you're with us again, it's fantastic. Mr. and Mrs. El Greco here again tonight supporting us, fantastic. Kerry Tilby-Price from the CEO of Exalt, thank you. And a special thanks to Jan Harrison from Volunteering New Zealand. To the TrustPower members of the judging panel, Vince Hawksworth, our CEO, Richard Aitken, the director, and Simon Clark, a thank you to you also. It's not an easy task and it takes some time commitment, so I thank all the judges. So for TrustPower, these community awards, they're the vast majority of our sponsorship. So why do we do it? Because we are provincially based, our customers are provincially based, and so are our power stations. We're a member of the RDR, the Rangitata Diversion Race. We pump water up into it and take it back out again. We live and breathe locally. So these events are our chance to lend a hand, to give a bit back, and it's pretty important for us to stay connected. And I believe that we're all changed a little bit for the better because we share the experiences and admire the achievements of what other people are doing around the country. And we're inspired by the positivity of others. It is contagious. It is my pleasure to announce the runner-up to the 2012 TrustPower Community Awards, the Mokanui Lyle Backcountry Trust. Well done.
Thank you much. That's great. Just for me personally, I've never felt more like a Kiwi than I have this weekend, so thank you. I very briefly, how many of you guys have grandchildren? Okay, we're building the old Ghost Road because your grandchildren's children, my grandchildren's children, will meet on that track. And it's amazing to create something like that. So thank you much.
There's a few obvious thank yous to say, and they've been said enough tonight, so I certainly don't mean any disregard, Graham, to you and the girls that have done an amazing job, but it's been there, so thanks, guys. I won't say it again, but I guess a lovely diversity today and just bloody inspiring to see the range of things that are being done, but there's a few commonalities as well, and I know that certainly from my position that for all the energy that goes into doing what's done across the range of districts here today, there's always those at home that are very understanding and tolerant of those of us that indulge so heavily in our illnesses, interests, hobbies, and I just want to acknowledge that because I know that it's a common theme across all the tables, and I'm very appreciative of my family and my dear partner for being so understanding of letting me indulge in my illness, so thanks. Thanks very much. Thank you.
The winner of the TrustPower 2012 Supreme Award is representing the Wellington region, Kibosh.
Wow, thank you so much, everyone. This is remarkable. We are so humbled and proud to be standing up here, and we were just amazed by all the fantastic community groups that are out there and the passion that you have for your projects, you know, from trains to lizards to rescuing food. I mean, everyone is out there doing it, which is what makes this, award just so humbling that we were the winner. So thank you so much. Thank you to TrustPower. Thank you to the Tangata Whenua for hosting us here tonight. It's been a really special occasion, and we're really touched and, as I say, humbled by your support, and of course our staff and volunteers and community and funders and all the people that have got behind us and helped us to make this what we saw initially as just a problem that needed to be solved, and hey, we gave it a go and never expected that we would get this far. So it's great to be here tonight, so thank you very much.
It was mentioned a moment ago there about the people at home, and one thing I've got to take this opportunity to say is I'm up in the stage sharing it with Dr. Robin Langlands, my best friend and partner, and it's worth pointing out that while I'm the pit crew, making sure that she has coffee in the morning and she gets fed and actually does sleep at stages, she's the F1 car out there actually doing the laps, doing the hard work, and Carbosh wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for Robin. Thank you.
And I just want to say it's wonderful to have young people trying to make sure that in the most affluent part of our country, people in need are looked after.
Congratulations, Mokihi Nui, Lyle Backcountry Trust. How are we feeling?
Oh, well, couldn't feel better really. After winning last year and being runner-up this year's certainly put Buller on the map.
Yeah.
Great.
And so what does this mean for your organisation? What's in the future for you all?
It's Phil.
Mario.
Well, we're just charging forward. We've got 2/3 of the trail done. We've got 1/3 of the Old Ghost Road yet to do. So this is a great step of many to make this dream a reality.
Okay, so what's driving this passion, this energy that you have?
It's a white blood cell condition. It's an illness, basically, Susie, is what it is.
Tell us more about this illness.
Hasn't been diagnosed yet, but it's certainly under research. We've sent some samples off to the States and yet to get a definitive diagnosis back. But it's bad. It's certainly bad, and it affects a lot of people. I'd call it madness.
Yeah.
So we're talking addiction.
It's addiction to New Zealand's great wild places, and we found a little secret one that very few people knew about. And we're addicted to the notion of sharing it with the rest of the country.
All right, so we're talking about capturing that catalyst. So what started it for you all?
Well, there was, the imagination, just kind of this dream thing from back in when the gold boom was booming, people were just filled with imagination. Well, and so this great concept was started. Well, the boom went bust, the air came out of the balloon, and so it all went blah. Well, we've just kind of picked it up and we've just said, no, wait a minute, this was really an amazing imaginary idea, and we can adapt it to 21st century, and by damn, we're going to do it.
It was simpler for that, for me than that, Susie. Weasel and another one of our founding members got me in there one night in the middle of nowhere, and they had a bottle of Maker's Mark, and they plied me with it, and we had a pretty good time, and we said, okay, what can we do to ensure that we spend as much of our next few years in here as possible? And we figured out a track was a pretty good way to do that. So that's probably the actual truthful part of the story that Weasel just tried to ply you with.
Okay, so we're talking about doing some great stuff in terms of heritage, in terms of opening up tourism. So tell us a little bit more about that. What are your hopes for this in the future?
Well, we think that the Old Ghost Road tells the story of the West Coast about as well as anything can. It's got the gold mining heritage, the natural wonders. I mean, people never thought of the Buller in terms of what they're going to experience on the Old Ghost Road, and it's an amazing thing. And Kiwis, that connection with the land thing, we've got it in spades for them. It's accessible. Every member of the family can get in there. If you're a mountain biker, if you're a tramper, if you're a fisher, angler, it's all there, and it's an honor to open up this area for people to explore.
Okay, one great thing that you guys talked about was your warrior weekends. That was a perfect example, and it summed it up nicely. So tell us a little bit more about that. Give us a rundown of how these weekends work. What's the nitty gritty of it all?
Sure. Okay. Well, so time poor. That's pretty much the standard for New Zealand. So you can't sort of run away with, right, we're going in for 10 days. So we had to work on weekends, and we needed to get moving Friday. So they really were those, sort of 54-hour kind of assaults, and a lot of logistics in the week with plenty of grog and food and getting going for sort of Friday afternoon, so a few people taking a few hours off work, getting in there, arriving in the dark, and then pretty much sort of dark till dark Saturday, Sunday, and getting home at some ungodly hour and starting your working week. So get a lot done. When you get sort of 20, 25, we had to limit it a bit because of the nature of the work we're doing, and you can move a lot of ground and achieve a lot when you focus, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, okay. So not only have you developed this track, but you've got the facilities along the way with the huts. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's been a great honor to build these huts in the backcountry. Our partnership with DOC has been amazing. So we built these 4 hut complexes, really. They're a main hut with 2 sleep outs. And they kind of apply a little bit of new ground, really, in terms of backcountry huts. We've been very careful about the placement of them in terms of just kind of capturing the magic of where they are, of wrapping up a day's tramp or a day's bike in the most perfect way. And we hope that they'll actually draw people in to experience this. And it is all about an experience. It's great scenery and all that, but at the end of the day, it's a way to experience the New Zealand wilderness, not just look at it.
Okay, so Pat, 2 years in a row, one of your groups has featured in the National Community Awards. What do you think stands out about this group?
These guys have certainly added to what I call the stable of things you must see and do in Bullawinga and Bulla, and coupled with the Oparara Valley Trust, who were at these finals a few years ago. And last year, the Denniston Heritage Trust, we really now have started to add value to the tourism product in Westport. And these guys, it's really set that off now, and we'll put them on the map, well and truly.
Done awesome. Any last comments, guys?
Chairman?
Mr. Chairman.
There's a lot to say, Susie, but I guess to TrustPower for the leadership and the vision for putting a framework around this weekend. It's pretty special. Just take the time and let community groups come together and tell their stories is a very, very special thing, and so I commend TrustPower for that. I think they do need to take a bow, as been suggested earlier, so thank you very much for the opportunity to participate.
Congratulations, Kibosh of Wellington City. Tell us how you're feeling right now.
Just can't stop shaking. It's just amazing. When you see the other people who are nominated, we were just blown away that we actually ended up holding the trophy, so it's just incredible.
Yeah, just really excited and inspired by being here this weekend and seeing what all the other great community groups are doing, and just in awe of everyone. So surprised and humbled to have won. Yeah.
Robin and George have done such a great job at inspiring volunteers to help people in the most need. So getting fresh food into those homes is so important.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about that need. What sparked it and how did we start this off?
Well, I think it's just that we saw a problem in our community, and that there was a lot of food that was being wasted, a lot of really good perishable food that was fresh, healthy, that people could really benefit from, and it was just being discarded at the end of the day. And so in an attempt to solve that problem, we formed Kibosh. So it was really just a common sense solution to a problem that we saw in the community, and we just wanted to give it a go and see if we could help out.
And at the core of everything we do is Wellingtonians helping Wellingtonians, and so this is something that gives back to our community and means that people can volunteer and help us out and really make a difference in Wellington.
It's an innovative and clever concept, so where to from here for you guys?
Well, we're really looking to expand and to utilise the model in other areas in the Wellington region that could really benefit from the service that we provide to our community. So we're looking at expanding into the Hutt Valley and into Porirua. Those are areas where we know that there's significant poverty, and that there are a lot of individuals and families that are really struggling to make ends meet and put food on their tables. And so we think that those are areas that we can really help out. We can go in there and help people get the food they need to live healthy lives. Yeah.
You guys are a great example of taking an idea and running with it. So what is your advice to groups or people who have an idea and they want to make it big? How do they get this started?
It's a case of just giving it a go. With the internet, and nowadays you can always find out, how do you do things. We didn't know how to set up a charity all the way along. We've said that this is our first time we've done this. We don't have all the answers, and being open to ideas from other people is really important. When someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I think this is a better way of doing it," listen to them and make sure that you take their thoughts on board, because we're here holding the award at the moment, but there's hundreds of people behind us who have got us to where we are today. We're really standing on their shoulders.
Yeah.
Mayor Celia Wade-Brown, what does this mean for Wellington City?
I'm really proud of Kibosh, and they're a great example of collaborating with different organisations. They work with 19 different food companies, and they work with 20 different charities, and it's that idea of working together to solve a really important problem that I think in the capital city we can do so well together.
Congratulations again, guys. Any last comments?
Just thank you to TrustPower for hosting this amazing event. This is the first time that we've been here, all three of us have been here, and it's just been a remarkable weekend, and we've been really inspired by what we've seen, and it's been so fantastic to connect up with people from all over the country who are doing such amazing jobs. So.
And as I said before, we're just the ones here at the moment, thanks to all our volunteers, all our funders. Wellington City Council got on with us, got on board really early on, and the
retailers and the list is endless, really. People that have really, the imagination has really been captured by what we do, and they've wanted to invest time, energy and resources in helping us achieve where we are today. So
it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Congratulations, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.